friends, today we're going to be doing a reading about all about you as a mother. For pile number 1, we have this monkey mom and a baby under this starry night, under the moon or stars, and a pine cone. For pile number 2, we have a whale, baby and a mom, and what I believe to be a lava rock. All of these 3 ornaments are things that I've collected and kept. I got this from this swimming area in Arizona. This is from Virginia. And for pile number 3, we have a swan mom and her babies. I forgot, what are the swan babies called? And a feather from a bird from my walk. So feel free to pause the video to make your decision, and I will see you in your reading. Bye! Hi, pile number 1. If you chose this pile, you have the pine cone and this monkey. First up, the pine cone. If you chose the pine cone symbolizes the third eye, sacred geometry, protection, eternal life, golden ratio, fertility, awakening of dormant energy and hidden knowledge coming to the surface. Apparently also the ancient Romans, I believe, associated pine cones with the goddess Venus and fertility, and they would put pine cones under their pillow to improve fertility. And then with the monkeys, I'm getting this playfulness, adaptability, tribe, family. And first off the bat, I feel like maybe you are someone who have recently decided and realized that you really want children, and 2028 will be the year of the monkey. So maybe 2028 will be a year when you will become a mother. But let's get to your reading. And I keep saying mother, but I feel like this reading doesn't have to be just for women. It can be anyone wanting to become a parent. Let me double check I'm recording. Yep. Okay. Pile number 1. Let's start with, I don't necessarily want to focus on the when, but more on as the you, as a mother. And I also don't want to focus too intensely on the parenthood aspect. I feel like this reading can be also about creation and the sacred feminine balance with the sacred masculine, and fertility in a symbolic sense, while of course being about literal fertility. Give us some initial insights about pile number 1. As a mother. The Three of Pentacles. I don't really create plans too much for my readings. Like organizations like this card will be this card will be this. I kind of just go with however the reading's guiding me forward. I'm saying that because as I pulled the first card, I'm sensing a more kind of like a question being answered, or what this first part of the reading may be about, what you need done before you become a parent, or what you may feel needs to be done before you become a parent. And it's this feeling that you need to get your finances and life in order, strategy, planning, work, saving money, learning, and being very, very, very financially savvy and responsible. Let's continue with that theme. That where is pile number 1 now? And what do they need to focus on before parenthood? Or even if you're already a parent, what do you need to focus on right now? Okay? The Angel of Wands came reversed. And Ten of Wands came reversed as well. There's some kind of burden you have to leave behind. Maybe you're feeling like you're carrying a lot of burdens right now, overworking. You need to let go of some kind of distraction that's taking too much of your energy before you feel like, yeah, maybe it's not that you need to become more financially savvy or more responsible. Maybe you feel like, let me scrap that. You may not feel like this, but Spirit is saying the cards that right now you may be carrying so much when it comes to your responsibility and work, and it's preventing you from tapping into this playfulness. You're very, very protective and possibly serious. A serious person who has this playful side that has been pushed aside for a while. What kind of parent? Oh, well, that came fast. Before I even finished the question. What kind of parent will pile number 1 be? Queen of Wands. A leader, creative, passionate leader. Maybe a little hot-tempered. I can see that. But I feel like also someone who has a lot of fun ideas and activities always planned for their children. I almost feel like the type of parent who is like the opposite of lazy, but the kind that put so much pressure on themselves about how constantly the children needs to be stimulated and learning, and you're a working parent, and even if you're not a working parent, but you gotta be like educating them and teaching them languages, and you're carrying so much because you're just trying to do so many things. I'm sorry if there's some background noise. There's a truck on the outside. Overstimulated maybe. Okay, while the truck is making a lot of sounds, I'm gonna take a sip from my tea. So loud. Okay, well, the truck's making sounds, I'm gonna pull out more cards. Wow. Okay. Oh, so loud. Well, I'm gonna continue talking, but these are some amazing cards for what kind of mother you will be, what kind of parent. Just emotionally balanced, kind, nurturing, creative, playful, Knight of Swords, very action motivated. I see you being very physical, the type of one who gets down and dirty at the playground and comes up with games, not the one that maybe, you know, sits on your phone at the playground, but gets really into playing with your children. And with the Two of Cups, all of this showed up upright as well. I'm seeing you're working in harmony maybe with your partner. And things are just flowing so nicely. With all of this, I also take it as not necessarily who you are, but this is the opportunity that you have to be as a parent. If you let go of this burden and stress and a rigid thinking. It's interesting, the Emperor lining up with the Queen of Cups, they feel like the type of people, if you think of them as archetypes of people, who I feel like would initially not get along that well. The Emperor is so strategic and I don't see him as, how would I explain? It's not that he's mean or too serious, but he's a little bit of, I see him a little bit as like King of Swords and King of Pentacles mainly, very earthy and very logical. And then the Queen of Cups, someone who is very tapped to their emotions. I feel like the Queen of Cups is often also regarded as too much of the Cancer archetype, and a little bit of, when you say tapped to your emotions, people may assume someone who is emotional, someone who cries often and is sensitive and easily hurt. But with the Queen of Cups upright, that's kind of not what it's supposed to mean, even though I kind of get that archetype energy from it. It's supposed to be someone who is in control of their emotions, very tapped to their emotions and how they're feeling. Very self-reflective, self-aware, intuitive. If there's, let's say, drama with a coworker or a friend, their reaction is not to double down on it, especially when it shows upright. Their reaction is to be, I have handled the situation as well as I can. I can't really control the reaction of the other person, so I'm gonna not let this emotionally control me. Yeah. I see you as someone who is kind of like that, or have the opportunity to be like that. The Knight of Swords also jumping into action, very protective, very hey, what's going on, you know, that type of mom. But just so playful as well. Let's get into when will pile number 1 have their first child or next child, if you're wanting a next child. Ooh. Spirit, when is the right time and a divine time? Interesting. During a period of rest and during a period of a break. 4, 3 of Cups. Oops. And Seven of Wands. What if we try and make some kind of numerology thing out of it? For, I don't know, like a date? Let's not focus too much on the numbers, but you have 4 swords, 3 of cups, 7 of wands. I have mentioned this before, but I'm not as much of like, I don't believe tarot is fortune telling or predictions. I think it's about intuition and self-reflection and self-discovery. So in the beginning of your reading, I was saying that you may be someone who has recently changed their ideas about whether they want to be a parent or not. And now you are feeling that you do, and you may have not wanted to be one before. So with the when, I am also thinking how, and also how you're starting these discussions with your support network. So maybe you are feeling like you have to defend yourself about your decisions as a parent, or even just the decision that you want to be a parent, with your friends and your community. But you can't let that control you. I feel like when you will be ready is when you are not relying on other people's opinions. It's during I don't want to say isolation, but contemplation, contemplation period, when you go to yourself and you think about these things alone without relying on other people's opinions and advice too much. Because you may feel like you constantly have to defend your position when you're talking about parenthood and the kind of parent you want to be and the decisions you want to make to other people. You're clearly very responsible, and you're so playful and harmonious and just, you know, protective and playful and fun, creative and passionate, who loves hard. Yep. Let's pull out something else as well as a final message for this reading. And think, what else do we want to find out? I don't know. I feel like I don't want to get too prediction based, you know? What is a self-discovery journey that Spirit is inviting you on, or telling you that it's nearly completing, or you're starting, or, you know, some kind of a... Okay. 3 of Swords, heartbreak. That just said heartbreak, it sounds bad. And I meant that heartbreak is coming to an ending, or you're learning how to deal with heartbreak and hurt. You're learning how to control your emotions better, not take people's words and your own thoughts that are negative thoughts, self-talk to heart, you know? Give me more on this thing that pile number 1 is learning, or needs to learn about themselves. 8 of Swords. Let's see where. 8 of Swords and 3 of Swords. Definitely some kind of self-limiting beliefs about yourself, negative self-talk. Dwelling in some kind of low confidence. about yourself, maybe as a mother, as a responsible adult, as a person of authority. And maybe I'm getting this energy of someone who has a little bit of this youthful naivety about yourself, and you somehow feel insecure, like that is going to prevent you from being a parent because you're so either young or just so youthful. You feel like you're still growing. You may feel like, me, an adult? I don't even feel like an adult. But you don't realize that you're actually quite responsible when it comes to how you have your career and household in order. But just because your energy is quite playful, that's gonna serve you well as a parent. You don't have to be some kind of serious, not those parents who's like, I don't know, distracted with something and they're like, well, later son, who doesn't go and play with their child. Maybe you're dealing also with a previous loss that you've had. Maybe you and your partner have been trying for a while and there has been a miscarriage and you're building up the bravery to try again. You're maybe in this isolation and grieving period, carrying a lot of burdens to distract your reality from what you could have. But that's not, it's limiting you. You can rise up from the pain that is in your mind constantly. Somehow I'm getting maybe someone is around you also for some reason being kind of like, you shouldn't try again. I don't understand why. Or maybe you just imagine that from people's energy and vibes, but again, don't. With the self-mastery Queen of Cups, you should just focus on yourself and not what you imagine other people are saying and feeling. Again, with the monkey, maybe it's 2028 will be your year. Okay, well that's not staying. That's what I have for you today. I hope this was helpful and I hope to see you again. Bye, pile number 1. Hi, pile number 2. If you chose this pile, you chose the whale and the potential lava rock. First up, some messages or themes that I'm getting for this pile is symbolism of whale, like ancestral knowledge, deep knowledge, this wise older woman energy, powerful, kind, calm, connected to ancestors, family, thinking of Setna, the Inuit goddess of water, just this kind of earth's core, deep knowledge, grounded, stable, calm, resilient, very ancestral type of energy. Been here before type of energy. And I'm also feeling like you may already be doing ancestral work, but if you are not, you could really benefit from doing some kind of ancestral work related to the women in your lineage. Getting very, very deep. Ancestral related to earth. I feel like sometimes there are some people who are more connected to the space and they're more connected to things like, star seeds and aliens and space knowledge. But then there are some people who are just truly feel like earth, And I'm getting that from this pile. Maybe you're someone who believes that in a past life you were a whale, or you have dreams about whales and life on Earth millions of years ago, Let's start first about where is pile number 2 now. Okay. 4 of Swords and 8 of Swords. I'm gonna put them upright even though they showed up reversed. Hold on, let me check if I'm filming. Yep. Feeling very trapped now, I feel like. Very, very trapped in some kind of negative self-talk. It was very similar. Pile number 1 had burdens and negative self-talk and as well showing up. The Chariot. You're feeling very, very trapped. Like you're so very stuck somehow. Oh, this flew out. 7 of Cups. I also think the first row is like, what do you have to get in order before becoming a parent? You may be just very stuck right now in life, not knowing where to go, what to do, what your next steps are. And being overwhelmed by options and choices. It definitely, you may already acknowledge this, it's not a good time necessarily to plan a family if you feel this uncertain about the future. But the 7 of Cups is also inviting us to just pick something and commit. A lot of with the 4 Swords, 8 of Swords and the Chariot reverse is about how you are potentially limiting yourself by getting overwhelmed by choice and overwhelmed by options and overwhelmed by just everything. And the 7 of Cups is about disillusionment and fantasy and getting sucked into all the options and all the choices that you have and all the potential in them. And it's usually inviting us to commit into something and come up with a game plan and move forward with something instead of sitting around staring at all the cups, you know, just picking one. Maybe you're also already expecting and maybe you're feeling a little trapped by this life change and it's making you feel very limited. Let's pull out some, let's focus a little bit more for you, pile number 2. Let's see how you can move past this challenging phase you are in right now and what you need to get in order before getting into parenthood. What does pile number 2 need to get in order before getting into parenthood? Okay. Maybe committing to therapy and self improvement. You may have to commit into working on your trauma, working on your hidden aspects of yourself and really working on it. You may have to commit to something, commit to mastering something. There's some growing up to do and releasing some kind of self-limiting beliefs. With the whale and the lava rock, there's just like, there's so much potential for you if you get past this horrible stress I feel like you're in right now, of this hopelessness of like, where is my life going, you know? I can relate to it. It's just, it's frustrating. You need to do some kind of actionable steps right now and really work on yourself, I feel like. Let's get one more on what, or a few more, let's just see what comes up. What Paul number two needs to work on right now before parenthood. King of Pentacles. Yeah, you need to get some kind of self-mastery and control and planning and strategy. I think there's some maturing to do and responsibility to take, as well as financial responsibility that needs to be taken, and responsibility for yourself. Responsibility, I feel like, also for your health. This feels very health related. Maybe you've been battling with unhealthy eating habits, unhealthy thinking, mental health illnesses and things like that. And you need to kind of be realistic and honest about to yourself, like, is this really a good situation to start daydreaming about family when you have some self-work to do? Which is not a... it's not a diss, you know? I feel like you already acknowledge it too. And it can be exciting too. Maybe you feel a burst of motivation to start working on yourself and finding a good therapist and getting all your ducks in a row, you know? Let's look at the whole picture by getting some cards on what kind of parent will pile number 2 be. Whoa. Okay, all of this. Get out. Knight of Cups, King of Swords, Five of Swords, Lovers, and King of Cups. I see someone who's diplomatic, loving, kind of a leader. You have more of this masculine way to your communication. Masculine way to your communication. How would I explain it more? You are the kind of parent that when your child has car trouble, they will call you regardless of your gender. You know, when they are in trouble, they feel like they can come and talk to you. Some hard things that I have to tell is that the Five of Swords, Lovers, and I think was it King of Cups came reversed. So you may be challenged by, when it comes to, how would I say, expressing your feelings, maybe being a little bit critical and serious. With the Five of Swords, someone who, let me think of an example. I feel like you already know this about yourself, that you may be struggling with closeness and how to express your love. But you're also very intelligent and very kind, and the way you show that you care about people is by giving advice and giving concrete help. So what you're invited to do as a parent is to work on how to be emotionally present as well. The emotional aspect, I feel like, might be something you are challenged with, not necessarily communication in other ways. I feel like also maybe you need to learn how to love yourself. You need some self-love, and maybe you need to admit that the way you communicate sometimes can be a little passive aggressive. And you're invited to become the light side of these cards, which is loving and supportive, someone who is there for you, someone who is very, very protective and kind and safe. Very, very safe energy coming from you. Grounded and safe in an emotional way. Let's get into when will pile number 2 expect to become a mother / how, or like the energies around it, but we'll start with that when question. 2 of Cups reversed. And Queen of Swords. Yeah, when you learn how to communicate with confidence, kindness, and authority, and self-advocating, and learning maybe with your partner, maybe there, if you have a partner, there are some challenges when it comes to agreeing on certain things. I feel like in this situation though, with the 2 of Cups, it's not necessarily about other people. I feel like it's about you and integrating the 2 parts of yourself, the feminine and the masculine, the yin and the yang, and the shadow self, and accepting parts of yourself. I think you may have to work on some past insecurities and past hurt before you're able to take care of others. And if you are already taking care of others, there's some hard self-reflective lessons you may be asked to look right now, especially if you've been having some fights or communication and challenge issues when it comes to your children or family planning. When harmony and partnership is fulfilled, and when you have become a leader who is able to talk and communicate with eloquence and tact and grace and advocating for yourself, getting out of self-limiting beliefs and this rumination in your mind, I feel like is when the time will be right. Also, again, going back into the rock and the wheel, maybe tapping into the ancestral knowledge. I feel like maybe your mind is a little clouded right now. It's difficult to think clearly. I'm going in to the hidden aspects of yourself and working through them. I feel like it's going to be very, very, very helpful for you right now. Feels like a very serious message, but with a lot of silver linings. going through a lot, it seems like, internally, I feel like, when it comes to decisions and knowledge and learning about yourself. But you will get through this, as we've seen. Okay. I hope this was helpful, pile number 2. And I hope to see you again. Bye. Hi, pile number 3. If you chose this pile, you have the swan and the bird feather. First up, some themes and energies that I'm getting and symbolism from these things that you chose is like gracefulness, leadership, royalty, beauty, charm. I'm also getting this kind of showing the way, you know, a mom bird showing the way to the tiny birds, and potentially you already daydreaming of having a little mini-me's or mini-yous. You know, having children who would be like you and have the beauty and grace that you have. Companionship, commitment, divine connection, transformation, and also with the bird feather and swan, royalty and angelic presence. So maybe I'm getting very much this kind of angelic presence, either of you almost being like an angel on earth, or your own mother or grandmother's angelic presence, but or your spirit guides or your own guardian angels, but very, very angelic, you know. Let's get to your reading. Okay. We're gonna start by looking at where you are now when it comes to your journey to motherhood and life, and kind of like what may be blocking you from stepping into this next phase. You may be wanting to be a first-time mother, or you already have children. Both. If you are either one, you can still hear this message. These are collective readings. Sometimes, although I feel like collective readings are particularly for some person, if I've listened to one, sometimes I'm like, I don't see how this could be for anyone else but me. They are so accurate. Sometimes. Especially now, since my channel is so new, maybe these are very individual messages. Almost like a personal reading. Where is pile number 3 now? Our swan mother. In her journey. I'm getting that you definitely want children. Maybe you're already actively trying. Okay. Oops. There are some new changes. I feel like maybe you've recently moved into a new house, you've recently gotten married, there are new beginnings, but there's some kind of challenges you're facing. Potentially when it comes to your fertility journey or finances and career. But you have a lot to be you're already in a position where you have a lot to be happy and excited about, and your current life is exciting. Taking so long for some reason to feel like the right card to pull. Give me one last about the current situation when it comes to the, I almost want to say just fertility journey to pile number 3. King of Swords. Maybe you're having a hard time communicating your true feelings about what you want from this life to someone. With 2 swords, it's interesting. The opposite with the 5 of Pentacles, which is often about poverty, isolation, loneliness, sadness. But I feel like it's not, I mean, those are the feelings that you're feeling, but that's not what is going to happen, if that makes sense. I don't do predictive tarot. I don't believe in fortune telling or predictions necessarily. I believe you can take control of your life, and the tarot only tells you what you already feel deep inside. With the 5 of Pentacles, I always say that there's a light and a candle inside the church that's usually depicted, and we're often isolated our own, and we could easily go inside the church and go into the warmth and go into the community and go into to finding our tribe. And we don't have to wallow in our misery outside in the cold. It sounds kind of straightforward, blunt, that's the word. I'm a little blunt, I feel like, when I tell these messages. But you know, if you're listening to tarot, you should be able to willing to take all sorts of messages, although I do feel like I have a responsibility as a reader to not say horrible things again, which is why I don't believe in predictive type of astrology. I mean, tarot, because it can be so unnecessarily cruel and mean and unethical. Maybe I'm kind of getting now with the sense of isolation, yet this happy thing happening, and the swords. Maybe you are already pregnant, but you're feeling like a little lonely or unnoticed by your family and friends when it comes to this, or you're having a hard time communicating something about a new beginning that's supposed to be exciting. It's interesting. Let's not focus too much on that, and let's look at what are some opportunities for growth right now that the universe is sending for pawn number 3. What are some opportunities for self-discovery and growth that is being sent? Lovers, Queen of Wands, passion, sensuality. You know, I'm not usually super literal when it comes to translating the cards, but I feel like this is about your sensuality and intimacy. Maybe you need to be a little bit more sensual and intimate. You know how babies are made. Maybe you're resisting the way to get into the motherhood. Or there's some kind of communication related to that. Interesting. Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune, I feel like, is inviting us often to take our destiny in our own hands and making the changes that we know we need to make in order to get the life that we want. But it's also confirmation that the universe is on our side. There's something passion related that you should be doing right now. Something that you truly love and feel. That's gonna give you a lot of sense of power and confidence and this beautiful sensual energy. These are your opportunities for growth. This is where you are now, and let's get into what kind of mother will you be. What kind of mother will pile number 3 be, or have the potential to be? 3 of Pentacles. Responsible, or teaching, sharing knowledge, again leading the way. 2 of Wands. Interesting. What kind of parent? Again, about this mastery and working on something. What kind of parent will pile number 3 be? And the Star. I'm seeing someone who is in some kind of a... You have some kind of a craft or something that you could share to your children. You know, you have some kind of knowledge and mastery and skills to share for them in a balanced way. Definitely getting this very elegant, charming, beautiful, graceful energy. Very artistic and skillful. You're doing something with your hands. And you're educating others on it. Hard work, you will be a hard-working parent. For your children's protection, for your children's happiness, but also for your own individuality. The 2 of Wands is very interesting on this. What kind of parent will I be? Balanced. Well, if I'm being honest, maybe you will be the kind of parent who will maybe look a little bit at the what ifs, like, what if I would have pursued this? What if I would have done this? And where would I be in life? You know? Looking at the other paths that you could have had. But I also get like that you really want to be a mother, you know? But you also want your own things. And you can have it. You have this self-mastery and authority and universe on your side. I want to get a little bit more what kind of parent will pile number 3 be. The Emperor. A leader, a protector, a guide, a wise yet elegant person. Such a good source of safety and protection and teaching. I'm getting like a teacher energy. I'm getting a craftsman energy. You're teaching a generational craft to your children. That you fear will be lost if you don't. And it's important to you. A 4 of Cups. Yeah, maybe there is a little bit of what ifs and disappointments in the current situation. Maybe you are already expecting and you're a little bit worried about how it's gonna impact your personal pursuits. And you should know it won't, because you're gonna be the type of parent who is going to be very responsible and balanced and graceful and amazing about working on these crafts for yourself, but also educating the younger ones. Maybe you are the teacher, a mentor over here, and this is your child, and then in this one, this will be you, and this will be generations to come, your children and grandchildren. So you shouldn't sit down too much on the Two of Wands in the Four of Cups energy of focusing on something that's not in front of you, or being mad at what's right in front of you. Let's get a final message for pile number 3. Sometimes when I pull a card, I almost want to put it back in the deck because I'm like, I don't like this. Or it's hard to translate. You get 7 of Swords. Don't get so hopeless that you feel like you have to result into thieving or lying. Okay, I feel like maybe you're feeling like something is being taken away from you. You feel like something's being taken away from you and you're a little disappointed in the current situation due to this some kind of new beginning. So the advice would be to not focus on the feeling that like something is being taken from you. You're being asked to focus on the Lovers, the Queen of Wands, and the Wheel of Fortune energy. Not into the Five of Pentacles, Four of Cups, Five of Swords energy. You can't really control other people's reactions or lack of assistance when it comes to this new thing. Again, considering if you are pregnant right now and you're feeling like your freedom is being taken from you, and you feel like there's a lack of support for this exciting new thing, I think you're being asked to notice that you can still integrate all of these parts of yourself into this new phase and into parenthood. And in the future, you're going to be doing it very masterfully and very beautifully and very gracefully. Very inspiring to younger generations and your children. And the universe and the Wheel of Fortune is on your side. You gotta tap into the Queen of Wands energy as a parent. And the Lovers too, I feel like it's about rawness and honesty and purity. And you have the Swan, which is about purity. You have to strip away the facade in order to be more authentic and close with the people around you and your children. You may be a little image-oriented, which is causing you to suffer alone and feel disappointed alone. But you have to learn how to be... I'm not saying you have to go around spilling everything to other people, but learning what being open means to you. What does being open would look like for you? I would recommend going into meditating a little bit more on the Star, Emperor, Queen of Wands, and Lovers cards, and what kind of advice do they hold in them. It could give you some answers to your current situation and the worries that you have regarding motherhood and parenthood. Okay, I hope this was helpful, pile number 3, and I hope to see you again. Bye!